Imagine saving for years to buy your first house and you finally have the down payment, and then you get hit with you need thousands of dollars more to close on your very first home. And those are called closing costs. So you have your down payment, which is a good chunk, and then you have closing costs, which is a whole other chunk. So in this video, I'm going to share with you what closing costs are, why you're paying them, and then I'm going to sneak in some data about how you can drastically reduce your closing costs and potentially get rid of them entirely in this video. So let's hop right in. What are closing costs? Well, they're all the third-party fees that are involved in this transaction. There's a lot of different jobs that are involved in getting a home closed, okay? And every single one of those jobs is an individual or a company that needs to get paid for doing their job. If a bank tells you there's no closing costs, they're probably not telling you the truth. They're probably building it in somewhere and you're still paying for it, but you may not be coming out of pocket. But there's always closing costs involved, guys. And let's start with the first one, lender. Everyone thinks that these are lender fees. And the truth is all closing costs are not. On a list of closing costs, there's one fee called the lender fee. And yes, that's what you pay the bank for doing the transaction. All the other fees that are included are somebody else. So closing costs are not the lender's fees. At least not all of them are. Just one of them is. The rest are the third parties. One of the most important parties in the transaction is escrow. Okay, escrow is the middleman between you and the seller, and they're making sure that the transaction is going smooth. They're coordinating everything. They're ordering certain documentations. They're gathering data from the lender. They're gathering data from the seller. They're gathering data from the buyer. So they're the middle person that's kind of coordinating the transaction, and they get paid for this, okay? Inside of their fees, there's all these tiny little fees that are included, but you'll get a total number for escrow, okay? Another important party, title. In certain states, escrow will be the title company too. Title gets a fee for this, okay? What is title? Well, title makes sure that there's a clean chain of title, meaning that when it goes into your name, it becomes your house. And then down the road, if there's any challenges with this, they insure it. So title is also insurance. They're doing a whole lot that's involved in it, but guess what? They get paid for the job too, okay? What's another fee? The appraiser. The appraiser is the person that goes out to inspect the property to make sure it's worth what you're buying it for. You don't want to pay more for something that's worth less, right? That's what the appraiser is doing. They're inspecting the property, making sure it's worth what you're buying it for. If it comes in higher, you made money. If it comes in lower, you get an opportunity to buy that house for less, possibly. Okay, possibly. Every transaction is negotiated, so it depends on how it irons out. But you want to know what your investment is worth, right? The appraiser is pretty darn important. Let's talk about the notary public. The notary public is the person that sits across from you in the state that you're in that is a person that's been appointed to confirm that you are who you say you are when you sign your loan docs. They're going to take your thumbprint, they're going to check your ID, you're going to sign the loan docs, and they're going to stamp every single document that's necessary to certify that it's been signed by you. So it's all legalities that are involved, okay? Got my little list here. What are some other closing costs? Well, it's the government fees. You pay property taxes on houses, okay? And part of the closing costs are the taxes that are due to buy that house, okay? So taxes are a big part of it. Another one is insurance. You have to insure that property. You have to make sure that if it burns down, it can get built back. That's why the lender will lend you money in case there's a fire. So you have to have fire insurance, a whole year's policy, plus a couple of other months that are padded, okay? What are some other things that could be involved in your closing costs? Well, let's talk about recording fees. It has to be recorded, right? Someone's got to pay the county. There's those that are involved too. So there's a whole lot of fees that are involved. Here's a short list of them right here. Talk with us. We'll actually cover all of them with you. And to be honest with you, closing costs can be a hefty chunk. Somewhere in the neighborhood of $8,000 to $12,000 average for most houses. 10's a good solid number to land on. Closing costs are necessary. Like I said, there's parties that are involved in the transaction. They're doing a job. They have to get paid. And that's fair, right? Everybody that does a job in the transaction is fair. So you have your down payment and you have your closing costs. But I don't want you guys to go through this thinking that you're not going to have to pay closing costs because you heard somewhere in a commercial or you heard someone say something. There's always closing costs involved. But what if you had an opportunity to pay less? What if you have an opportunity to maybe not even pay any of them? How is that possible? Well, there's two strategies to not pay closing costs. The first one, which is the most popular, my favorite, and it'll be your favorite too, is to get the seller to pay them through negotiation. So when you put an offer in on a house, you're putting your first piece of negotiation to buy that house. So when you do that, you can ask the seller to pay all closing costs. Now, this is going to be dependent upon the seller's motivation, the seller's ability, and market conditions. So if you have a seller that is just trying to get top dollar for this property, maybe they're retired, maybe this is an investment house of theirs that they just don't want to manage anymore and they want to get rid of it. And they tell the agent, hey, I want to get top dollar on this, so try to squeeze as much out as you can. You put in an offer asking for all closing costs. In that scenario, probably not going to get any. But let's change the seller's situation. Let's say the seller lives in California and now they're moving to Texas because they got a new job opportunity and they need to leave ASAP because they start their new job. Not to mention they're moving their family who need to get enrolled into schools because they have children. And a wife that, has things that she needs to do. Maybe her job's moving too. Or a husband that is a stay-at-home but needs to make sure that they're plugging into all their life's happenings in that new city or town. So in that case, you got a motivated seller. You put in an offer, ask for closing costs, there's a chance that they're going to be able to pay all of your closing costs. And if not all of them, maybe they come back with a negotiation where they say, well, they'll pay half. So if you ask for $10,000 in credit to come back from them and they say, can't give you 10, but I can give you 5. Well, that's a way better deal. And now you've shrunk the amount of closing costs that you actually have to pay out of pocket. So what that means at the end is that you're paying $5,000 less. And in the best case scenario, they're paying all closing costs. And know this, guys, it's very common for sellers to pay closing costs across the country. I am located in California. Our bank is licensed in all 50 states, but it's often in all the different states for sellers to pay closing costs. And that's where market conditions come in, okay? Right now, we are in a strange market, which means that a lot of buyers are getting a lot of benefits. I'm not going to call it a seller's market. I'm not going to call it a buyer's market. I'm going to call it a strange market. And in strange markets, there's no edits to these videos, guys, so I hope you appreciate that. This is just raw video. In strange markets, there's strange benefits that buyers get, like closing costs being paid. Or maybe you even get an opportunity to buy the house for less than what they're selling it for. Negotiation's a big deal. Having a strong agent on your side is an even bigger deal. And if you need a good one, we'll refer you. But I digress, back to the negotiation. So that's one way you can get closing costs reduced or paid by the seller, okay? Another option is the program. So there's programs that will help pay for your closing costs, okay? You pay for them in the long run through whatever the terms of the program is. Maybe you pay them back, maybe you don't. Maybe there's a higher interest rate, maybe there isn't. Maybe you pay them back immediately, maybe you pay them later. There's a lot of different ways to chop that up. But if getting in the house with the least amount of money out of pocket is your goal, using one of those programs is a great strategy. Let me see if I missed anything here, guys. Here's the beautiful thing about these videos. I don't edit them. Sometimes I talk too fast and I get my words crossed and I have to correct myself. But this is just how it is, guys. I want to give you an experience of who we are, how we operate, how we talk. I don't want to be one of those clean videos where it's just edited all the way through and it looks all fancy, because that's not real life. When you sit across from me at my desk, this is how the conversation goes. When you call me on the phone, this is how the conversation goes. But I think we pretty much covered everything. Now, closing costs are pretty much the same for all loans, whether you're getting a conventional, VA, FHA, USDA, pretty much all the same, because it's still title, escrow, notary, lender fee, appraiser, all the people that we discussed inside of this, taxes, insurance, all that stuff still has to get paid regardless of the loan type. But that's pretty much it. If you guys want to have a conversation about this, give us a call. We're more than happy to do that. Our phone number is plastered all over this site, whether it's in our banner or in the description. Call us, text us. We want to help you. We hope to help you on your next home. And I hope this was a good data for you. So I hope you're doing great. Take care. Bye.